The story begins with a girl named Rowan sleeping inside a car. The car arrives at a store, the roof of which is covered in snow. Waking up, Rowan sees the two people who were in the car with her, now standing outside. Everything seems fine, so she goes back to sleep. They continue driving and arrive at their destination at night. The other girl in the car is Emily, who tells Rowan she is glad the latter slept, because she needed it. Rowan exits the car, looking into the darkness in the woods. They seem to have arrived at a cabin in the woods during wintertime. Upon entering the cabin, the third member of the group, Brendan, greets them. He is Emily's boyfriend, while Rowan is her friend. Later, Emily claims that this cabin has been in her family for a long time. She used to come there in the summers with her brothers, but she thinks she prefers it in the winter due to it being so peaceful. Then Brendan makes a toast to Emily's recovery and Rowan's welcome. As the trio prepares dinner in the kitchen, Brendan asks Emily how she knows Rowan. She reveals that Rowan works at her warehouse. She is a receptionist there. Emily tells a short story of a Christmas party where a guy got drunk before flirting with Rowan. Emily saw a certain look in the girl's eyes, which made her think perhaps the poor girl needed her. They have been friends since that moment of rescue. Rowan still cannot believe what Emily said. She could never be that bold. They both agree the guy at the party was a creep. As Rowan looks out the window, she sees a figure quickly moving past it. This scares her, making her accidentally cut her finger instead of the potatoes. Emily has a very unorthodox response to Rowan's cut finger. She tries to remedy the wound with her mouth. After doing that, she tells Rowan it's better now. She also tells her there are band-aids in the washroom. The next scene has Rowan washing her finger in the washroom. She follows this action by wrapping a band-aid around it. Later, the trio plays cards while drinking wine. Eventually, Emily says the fire is getting low and asks Brendan if he can get some wood. Rowan volunteers to get the food for the fire, so she leaves the cabin to collect it by the window. She uses this time to look at the couple for several seconds. Back inside, Rowan sits with them on the couch, but her mind seems to be elsewhere. Soon Emily starts telling a story that her brother told her, which she considers insane. The story goes like this. A couple moved into a new apartment. After some time, they started hearing sounds in the walls. At first, they blamed the neighbors for those sounds. However, one night, the woman woke up and saw a man standing in the living room. He had apparently been living in a secret room behind the wall. Brendan reacts to the story with amazement. Rowan expresses that it's terrifying. With this story setting the mood, Brendan is now curious to know what is the weirdest thing that happened to Rowan. She shares her experience of a woman having followed her home. She does not go past this initial statement, adding it was nothing because the woman disappeared quickly. Afterward, Rowan accidentally knocks over a cup and apologizes for it. She is quick to fall asleep on the couch. At a different time, we hear Brendan telling his girlfriend this was supposed to be their week away. She tells him Rowan is nice. Plus, it seems like he is getting along with her. The guy retorts that he is just being polite. While they talk, we see them through Rowan's blurry vision. Then Brendan asks if they should take off her clothes, prompting Emily to tell him not to be a deviant. He wants to spend time with Emily alone, saying they need it. She puts her arms around Brendan and asks if they can talk about this later. Later on, Rowan wakes up in bed, seeing her friend sitting on it. The scene suddenly changes to Rowan vomiting in the washroom. Emily enters to ask if she is okay, before sitting near Rowan against a wall. She notices cuts on Rowan's arm, making the latter cover them with her sleeve. Rowan wants to ask Emily about something, but she decides to stop for some reason. We get the impression she wanted to ask about the couple's conversation during Rowan's semi-conscious state. Instead, the girl simply rests her head on Emily's shoulder, and Emily rests hers on Rowan's head. The next day, we see snowfall outside. Rowan comes to Emily in the kitchen, saying she feels much better. The girl who was up first made a hangover cure for her friend, who takes a sip of it. We learn Brendan is still sleeping. He had a hard week at work, which is why he was looking forward to their time off. Rowan hopes it is okay for her to be there with them. Assuring her, Emily says she invited her there. Of course it is okay. Rowan is curious to know how the couple stays so happy together. Emily tells her the secret. They take care of each other. There is nothing else to it. Following this, the trio engages in a walk outside in the snow. Eventually, Brendan points at something ahead, asking what it is. They approach the peculiarity and witness a bunch of hanging rabbits. When Emily touches one of them with a stick, Rowan looks at the poor animal with some worry. After repeated prodding from Emily, her concerned friend is forced to tell her to stop. At night, they are back in the cabin. Emily covers Rowan with a blanket as they sit near an active fireplace. Soon Rowan asks Emily who she thinks hung the rabbits. Emily claims it was probably hunters. Joining them, Brendan has a glass of wine for himself and his girlfriend. He didn't get one for Rowan because of her reaction to it last night. Despite what happened, Emily gets up to give her friend a glass of the alcohol. It's just one glass, she says, so Rowan drinks it. During dinner time, Rowan seems to be disoriented. Emily takes her out of it by asking if she could expand on the story of her stalker from last night. Brendan says she doesn't have to tell it if she does not want to, but Emily wants to hear it. Therefore, Rowan begins. Around 1 month ago, a woman went into the office where Rowan works. She was looking for a person who Rowan thought no longer worked there, since she did not recognize the name. That night, she was returning home from work, and the stalker was at the end of her block. She was looking at Rowan, who waved to the woman. However, the woman did not return the gesture. After that, the stalker was on Rowan's corner every night. First, she tried to ignore the stranger, hoping she would go away. One night, Rowan even shouted at her, but was too scared to approach the stalker. Brendan asks if they ever found out who the woman was, and Rowan claims they didn't. Later, Emily reveals a record she found in the closet, wondering if her parents left it there. The couple is excited about this discovery. Rowan does not share their excitement. She simply agrees to do it with them. As time passes, we see the trio get affected by the substance. They are talking and laughing at an oddly late hour. The current topic is about infomercials. Rowan asks the couple if they remember seeing a woman who had big hair and wore big jewelry. Brendan remembers her. She scared him when he was a kid. Rowan shares how the woman gave her nightmares because of her grin. Brendan asks Rowan what she would talk about in her infomercial. She would do an exercise video because she likes the weird music that usually plays on those. The two continue to goof around, and soon Emily heads off to bed. Brendan and Rowan continue to talk about where they are from. After Rowan shares her place of origin, Brendan becomes confused, for he was told a different place by his girlfriend. The conversation becomes somewhat awkward, with Rowan having to dial back, saying she lived in this other place for a short time prior to coming here. She can't even specify exactly where she was staying. She guesses it was the south side. Brendan is also from elsewhere. He says he moved here a few years ago for Emily. It is a place he does not go back to often, due to work, and Emily being in recovery. It's hard to visit home. He wants to help her as much as he can. Subsequently, Brendan goes to bed and Rowan rests on the couch. Meanwhile, we observe a silhouette of someone who doesn't look perfectly human. Rowan wakes up in her bed, seeing someone sitting on it. Needless to say, she is scared. With her blurry vision, she cannot see who this person is, as he or she walks away. Come morning, Rowan enters the living room and sees Brendan there, looking out the window. We hear a blizzard outside, which makes him say he's not going out there today. Turning to look at Rowan, he notices a cut on her arm. She looks at it in surprise, realizing he isn't lying. Afterward, Rowan finds a photo album in a cabinet. She looks through it to see old photos of Emily's family, and stares at a baby Emily for a few seconds. It doesn't take long for the cabin owner to join her. At this moment, Rowan catches sight of a red spot on Emily's shirt. The latter doesn't know how it got there. Once she leaves, Rowan looks at her own injury. In the next scene, Brendan prepares dinner in the kitchen with Rowan. He asks her how she cut her. She very likely thinks he's referring to the cuts we saw on her arm earlier in the washroom. However, she seems relieved to learn he means the cut he saw this morning. Rowan guesses it happened on the bed frame from a piece of metal. At that moment, Emily comes to her boyfriend and starts kissing him, but he feels uncomfortable doing it around their guest, so he tells her to stop. At another time, the trio plays Scrabble beside the fireplace. As Emily gets up to get a drink, the lights suddenly go out. Brendan thinks the storm caused the blackout. At least their fire is still providing them with light. The storm can't take that away. Back in her room, Rowan looks at her cut. She watches her friend occupy the kitchen through a narrow opening. When the friend enters her room, she gifts Rowan with a lit candle and some tea for her headache. She also bears some bad news, saying Brendan tried to call the power company, only to fail to get through. At night, Rowan gets out of bed and exits her room. She sees a figure standing near the kitchen sink, visibly experiencing a problem. There is also what looks like a glass of blood nearby. The person turns around to reveal herself as Emily. Rowan is scared to see this, yet it's a dream she wakes up from. She comes to the kitchen and finds no one this time. But the moment is not devoid of its peculiarity, for there is blood in the sink. Searching for something in the cabinets, Rowan finds a bottle of pills. Upon hearing Emily in the distance, she drops them by accident. After she puts them back, she ascends the stairs to spy on the couple engaged in intimacy. Emily turns around to see Rowan, which prompts the latter to hurry downstairs to her room. She jumps back on her bed and looks back at the door. like she's expecting Emily to come for her. Since no one enters, the girl holds one of the pills she found to look at it. She hides it in the drawer. In the morning, Rowan discovers she has a second cut on her arm. Opening her door, she sees Emily standing behind it. She comes in to tell Rowan the latter does not look too good. Rowan backs away with worry, saying she is fine. However, her friend says she should go back to bed, especially after last night. Intrigued by her words, Rowan asks what happened. She was in the kitchen, says Emily. She guesses Rowan was sleepwalking, and she had to bring her back to her room. Rowan doesn't remember this. Before leaving, Emily says she will go for a walk with Brendan. In a short time, she comes back with some water for Rowan to drink. It's medicine, she claims. When Rowan emphasizes she feels okay, Emily asks if she trusts her. She gently adds that she is Rowan's friend, so the girl allows Emily to put a pill in her mouth prior to sipping some of the water. Emily goes outside with her boyfriend and Rowan goes to the kitchen to look at the sink. Now there is no blood there. She looks at the cuts on her arm in confusion, her eyes diverting to the knives hanging on the wall. Afterward, Rowan enters the couple's room to search in their bags for something. She finds nothing of interest, hence resorts to searching in the drawers. There she finds photos, some of which are of Rowan in the kitchen. She doesn't know what to make of this discovery. When she hears the couple returning, she hides in her room. Standing right behind the door, the girl listens to them talk. All she hears is Emily saying she didn't ask for certain unspecified things, and that maybe she does not want Brendan's help. Rowan lies down on the bed. Strangely, she wakes up on the couch, seeing Emily engaged in an unseen activity near the fireplace. Rowan slowly approaches her to discover she is eating. Thankfully, the girl awakens from this repulsive nightmare. Emily sits on her bed, having brought her friend tea. Rowan looks sick to her. Upon seeing another cut on her arm, Emily asks about it. After Rowan says it's nothing, she sees Emily might be troubled by something and asks if she is okay. The girl claims she's okay, but we don't know if she can be believed. Then we experience a surreal moment of Emily showering. It looks like her blood is spraying on the curtain. She looks in our direction, telling Rowan that everything will be fine. Again, the girl wakes up from her dream. She enters the washroom to search for something, yet it is futile. Rowan looks in the mirror and tells herself she looks like hell. Subsequently, she looks in the bathtub, discovering the blood splattered on the drain. It troubles her, but looking at it a second time shows her nothing is there. While Rowan sleeps, Emily ventures into her room. The girl seems to create another cut on Rowan's arm. Interestingly, she isn't completely sleeping. When Emily leaves, Rowan wakes up fully, feeling the pain of her wound. She discovers she now has 5 cuts. This prompts her to go to the living room to collect the car keys from a coat. After she does, Rowan puts on her own coat and heads out to sit in the car. About to insert the key, the troubled girl gets a flashback. It is a memory of Emily. Remembering her friend, she cannot bring herself to leave this place. Instead, she stays in the car until sleep claims her. In the morning, Brendan opens the car door, surprised to see Rowan in the seat. He urges her to get back inside the cabin. Once there, he asks her if she sleepwalked before, and she nods. She asks if there is something wrong with her. Brendan looks at Rowan blankly, asking why she would say this. He is considerate, preparing her tea and giving her some pills he thinks might help her sleep. She starts crying, asking if she is crazy. Continuing with his concerned mindset, he thinks she is just upset. He also shares that 1 year after they got together, Emily had a breakdown. Brendan believes it had something to do with her sister. This confuses Rowan, and she asks about the sister she apparently did not know about. Brendan narrates, when Emily was 10 years old, her younger sister lost her life. Brendan doesn't think she ever got completely over it. At that moment, Emily enters the room, asking with concern if Rowan is okay. The next scene shows the troubled girl in bed. Emily approaches, saying her boyfriend told her what happened. She claims Rowan can't leave them in such a way, because they worry about her. Shortly after, Emily lies beside her. Rowan wants to tell her something. She says no one was following her, referring to the story she told the couple earlier, although she doesn't reveal the reason why she lied. Changing the topic, she says the first time she saw Emily was when the latter was getting in her car to drive to work. She looked happy to Rowan, and she wanted to know more. The first time she observed her together with Brendan, she didn't think that kind of happiness was possible. Emily does not allow her friend to keep living in a delusion by telling her it's not possible to be perfectly happy, but it helps to have people to take care of. Rowan asks if Emily is mad at her. She claims that she is not. She acknowledges that sometimes they do crazy things to find their friends. Prior to this scene ending, Emily wants Rowan to promise her she will never leave, so Rowan does. As Rowan lies in bed, she hears the couple talking through the wall. Brendan tells his girlfriend that they need to take Rowan back to the city and finish this. Disagreeing with him, Emily says this is the best place for the girl to reside. She wants to take care of her. When Brendan asks what about him, she simply restates his question to him. At that point, he says he can't be a part of this anymore. After Rowan hears him leave the cabin, she heads into the living room. Emily enters from the front door, lying to her friend that Brendan had to go to town. She is unaware of Rowan having heard their conversation. At a different hour, Emily enters the kitchen and Rowan announces to her that she made dinner. Thus, the friends sit near the active fireplace to enjoy their meals. Rowan learns that Emily has seen better days. Finishing her dinner, Emily asks Rowan how she is feeling. The girl happily says she feels much better. Emily looks ahead, saying she never understood why Brendan liked her. She thinks maybe he never did. Since her accident, he has been very helpful, but she feels like the more he helps, the less he cares. According to her, it's much easier to make someone need you. Yet for them to like who you are is rare. Rowan stares at her friend with compassion. Wanting to leave this somber topic, Emily gets up to get some wine. She comes back with 2 glasses of the moderately alcoholic beverage. Back in her room, Rowan looks out the window to see the full moon. She enters the dark living room to take out the photo album from the cabinet again. Looking through it, she stops to look longer at the photo of little Emily. As Rowan is putting the album in the cabinet, she accidentally drops something, causing a piece of floorboard to move. It reveals a small elongated box, which Rowan investigates. What lies inside is unnerving. There is a tube of blood and a syringe inside. As if that is not enough, the objects are accompanied by a small knife. Of course, the girl feels uneasy with this discovery. She returns to her bed, holding the knife. The scene transitions to her walking outside at night in the snow. Rowan stops to look at a rabbit. What's worse is what she finds once she looks down. Emily seems to either be eating her arm or sucking the blood out of it. Rowan does not scream. She merely looks away at the rabbit. That is how we know this sequence is a nightmare. Rowan wakes up and sees a new cut on her arm. Emily lies beside her, instructing Rowan to stop hurting. However, the girl sits up, confronting Emily about why she has been doing this to her. Emily sits up too, saying she's helping her. But Rowan can't be fooled anymore since she's discovered the box. When Emily says she's going to make everything better, Rowan yells at her, revealing that she found the box. Afterward, she vulgarly yells for Emily to get away from her. So the girl exits the room and Rowan closes the door behind her. Emily tells her to open the door. She also reminds Rowan that she promised to never leave. Turning around, Rowan sees 3 small tubes on the table, all half filled with blood. She approaches them in shock, and we see she still has the knife in her hand. Soon Emily stands behind her, putting her hand on Rowan. Scared, Rowan turns around to stab the girl in her neck. After she falls from her wound, Rowan exits the cabin. She walks out into the snow eerily smiling. Then she runs into the woods. Eventually, Brendan drives by in his car. Rowan loses consciousness, and he rushes to her aid. The final scene has him placing her beside the cabin so he can open the door. Once he enters it, Rowan stands to look grimly through the window, observing Brendan coming to a lifeless Emily.